We're live.
All right, this is the conference committee on H.955. We're back after a roll call in the Senate. And we're still on maps.
No, you're doing school construction.
Oh, that's right, school construction, you're right.
John, will you pull that back up and show us the maximum?
Yes. And I think just, obviously, we're gonna want to take this back and talk.
Okay, so John Gray, Office of Legislative Counsel. This is
We just go to
a,
the very last one.
okay.
Yeah.
This is maximum aid where you have both debt service subsidy and state bonding.
So I think my concern with your construct, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on it, is just like what happens in the, like 25% is a lot for a larger district to come up with and have an affirmative vote on. And I'm like, what happens in the scenario where essentially like new or significant construction is necessary to reach the scale that we've outlined in 955, and that region, say maybe like Slate Valley Zone, for instance, might be a good example, who tends to quite fiscally conservative, feels that they can't swing the 25%. Like what happens from there?
Well, I think that looking at from where we are right now, where there's like zero state aid and zero state support for school construction going up to the potential of 95% was a huge jump.
Yeah.
So really keeping it, the base amount being 30% was still an increase over the 20%, which was the old program. So saying we want to be more generous at the base amount than previous years, but then keeping the bonus incentives the same as what you proposed, the 45%, really just said, look, we really want to prioritize the most needy and priority projects that meet all of the bonus aid criteria, and also, reduce, keep the pressure on the education fund reasonable. So the debt service subsidy would presumably be from the education fund. And so that would be spread out across the state. The school district supplemental district spending, the way that is equalized with the formula, makes it so that the districts that have really low property values are going to be able to, do that spending at a lower rate than the districts that are higher, or less pressure on their property taxpayers. So, I mean, frankly, it was just to be a little bit more conservative with what the state funding obligations were.
Technical question. Well, that's us. The supplemental district spending for debt service. I'm sorry, debt service on a district bond. That follows all the same supplemental district spending rules for regular.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Thank you.
raised in the same way.
It's raised in the same way, but there isn't the cap on it.
Right.
Like there is with the other supplemental.
And there's only
district spending.
one vote. It's not an annual vote. It's once
Yeah,
you've
yeah,
approved.
Correct.
Yeah.
Which is like it is in current law. You vote on it once and then you pay the debt service over a number of
But in
years.
terms of the construct that we have with supplemental district spending, that it has to be sort of comparing across the state.
Lowest taxing capacity district.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So given that construct, it would equalize it. And yeah, a lot of it was just about being more conservative with the state funding.
Great. That was the frame I needed, John. I'm so sorry I tortured you with graphics. This does actually genuinely deeply help me understand.
I mean,
I'm sorry I did not do it myself. I'm sorry I didn't just do it myself in pencil.
if folks find this confusing based on what we talked about during the break, I can also remove what I call navy, but I am not good with colors.
It's fine. Don't worry about it.
That
This was very helpful.
This is good. This is good. This is good enough. Yeah, thank you.
Do folks want to see more interesting Mondrian style?
I would like you to make it a stained glass window for us for next year.
I will try.
Thank you.
Okay, so we want to just take it back. We've got,
Where-
or actually, where are you on this? What
Yeah,
are you
we're-
proposing?
I really just, I wanted to understand your thinking and actually understand just how the two proposals stacked up
Yeah.
next to each other, because I could not gather that from the words for some reason.
Yeah.
So that is helpful,
Yeah.
to understand that.
So do you want to talk about the levies?
Yes.
Okay.
Have you, so yesterday I asked what happens in this scenario, and I sort of explained my thinking. Do you have more thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I think your question was what happens in a scenario where there's legacy debt and the districts will have to revote to do the supplemental district spending. And that's one of the reasons you all went to 100%, so that there's not this requirement for a revote.
I would say like even more explicitly, the concern that a revote would fail and then they
Then what do you-
have some weird
Exactly.
situation. Yeah.
So just to reiterate, our thinking on the 75% was to keep them equal. So the legacy debt and the new debt would both be at 75%.
Mhm.
So there's not a preferential treatment that, right now, the districts that have debt are the ones that have been successful at getting bonds passed. And the districts that haven't been successful at getting bonds passed are just as needy, if not more needy, but they just can't convince their voters to support a bond, or they haven't tried because they don't think they can.
Mhm.
So not wanting to give preferential treatment to one kind of district or another, because I think there's some inequities in where the bonds have been able to pass in the state. So in terms of the situation where what happens if a district, and I haven't talked to my people about this, but the only thing that I can think of is that there's some language that is a sort of fail-safe, or if it doesn't pass, that would allow districts to, or grandfather clause or something that allows districts that have current debt to carry on the authority to spend above the foundation, to be able to pay back 25% of their debt service.
It seems,
They're still gonna have the debt, and the legacy debt would release 75% of it, but for the other 25%, they're gonna have to do supplemental district spending. So the question is, if they can't pass, so they're gonna still have to pay for it. But to make it equal, it should be paid for on the local level. So is there a way we can create a fail-safe in the law that allows them to use that local authority?
so some other concerns there to sort of work through. The,
They have kids, school kids.
we should bring them all in and like, be like, oh, you're who we're.
What do you think about supplemental?
What do you think
district spending?
So that would be great, Julie, thank you. When those bonds were passed, they passed under an assumption that they were going to be paid for a certain way that will not be available anymore. And so when I think about like, saying the word fair is super hard in this context, right? And then the other piece is we had a real concern. So we took, when we took testimony about when we moved to this community-led merger process, and when it was still in-house education, we had an assumption in Ways and Means that when the bill came over to us, we would create this whole complex system of like tax penalties and tax incentives and like sort of some like souped up version of Act 46 tax stuff. And then when we took testimony from folks who had both merged successfully and not, really heard that all of those things did not work at all. People did or didn't, but the tax incentives were not, in fact, sometimes had negative consequences to them, significant ones. Especially the tax incentives that when they went away, people just experienced that as a tax increase, which makes a huge amount of sense, but we didn't sort of understand until someone said it. What folks said in that testimony was removing barriers to consolidation to merging, was a much more skillful policy tool. And school construction, the need for school construction is one of them. That's why the new school construction language is in there. But also folks' real district's fear of like joining with a district that's carrying around all this debt was another big fear. And we wanted to make sure, in addition to like the logic of the foundation formula, that we were removing that, like, you know, your grandma tells you never to marry anyone with too much, you know, student debt, right? That kind of situation. My grandma never said that, just for the record. Sorry about that very weird metaphor. I just poured out on the table for everyone. So I think that also, like, removing that fear was a big part too.
Yeah, and I guess I would
And then some
say,
of that debt is like buildings that like probably even need new work now.
well, yes, but the districts that have the debt are the ones that have done renovations of
Yeah.
the building. So usually debt means that you have an asset that is worth more and is in better shape and won't require new debt once you've merged it into your system. I mean, based on my experience, and Rep. Conlon can correct me if he saw it a different way. When we merged our district under Act 46, there was some debt and some various schools had debt. The school that had the most debt actually had the nicest school building, Salisbury. And that school is the one that's, nobody's talking about closing because it's a really nice building. And so I do think that districts that have been able to successfully pass a bond, I think Burlington, they have this huge, beautiful, gorgeous building. They have a lot of debt, but who wouldn't want to go to high school there? So I think that it goes both ways and that communities will be thinking about it in both ways.
Thank you.
Everybody else has got deferred maintenance.
Yeah,
So the real challenge here, though, is, well, how do we handle a negative vote on legacy debt that continues to exist?
right,
Yeah, so maybe that you can
Okay.
talk with Ledge Council or
Yeah.
about something that might solve that,
okay.
even if it's a study. I don't know, right?
He said the S word. Thanks. Should we? I feel like we only have like 20 minutes left before we all have to run. I'm not sure what the next topic would be that we could open up for the next 20 minutes.
One question that is actually in this section
Yeah.
that we've left in the legacy debt aid section.
Will you tell me what?
70, it's section 74 on page 79. It's just the concept of an appeal based on the
Oh, yeah.
bad faith thing. Yeah, and should have embed an appeal to the Secretary of Education.
Yeah, if
It
you want to
seems
work
like
on
that's the
language, that
logic
sounds
place.
great, or I can
Okay.
work on whatever. works better.
I can work with John on both of these things.
Thank you. I also think that year should move back a year, that date.
What page, sorry.
Page 79 of the,
Oh, it's still there. Okay.
yeah, on section 74, which date?
And the eligible school districts legacy debt age shall equal blah, blah, blah. I think it needs to move. I think that date probably needs to be changed, but I don't,
So December 31st, 25
yeah.
to
I was about to say January 1st, but I'm actually not sure I'm right about that. So let me,
better than a full year earlier, right? Is that right?
we also had December 31st. I just think we were wrong.
Okay.
Okay, why don't you think about that and, because I have it circled, but I don't know which direction
Yeah,
either.
I think it needs to go a little bit earlier.
I think it's in the back. Yeah, like a before.
Um,
So either January 1st, 2025 or December 31st, 2024, whichever construct please. Yeah. So I'm just gonna say that 2024.
why is that?
It's the line, I think, with the excess spending exemption.
We don't want, I think there's a real concern both in the context of the yield bill and in this, that, districts will incur debt, without the context of all of the rules and approvals here,
Mhm,
in sort of this weird interim period that we're in.
mhm.
And really want to make sure that we are as structured as possible about those building projects, so they're not working against the larger goals of 955.
Got it. Okay. Might have some
Yeah.
follow-up questions to that.
Okay. Anything else on this? I like, just want to say, I'm so incredibly grateful for all the detail that you hear for all of this language and work and timelines and stuff.
Thank you. Glad to hear it.
Senator Bondarks, you had something about rules, dates.
Yeah, it's a minor thing, and you may have picked up, but when we were doing our weekly or sessions with the state board, they raised it once or twice an issue of a couple of rules that are due, I think, in March of 27, and just wondered whether that could get moved to July, so they have a full year to do that.
I don't have a recollection of what.
I think it got moved in our version, Senator. I think what it is the rules for the school construction. In the House version, it was March 2027, and we moved it to March 2028.
I remember seeing that, and
Yeah.
I'm not sure that's the only one, but thank you.
Oh, okay.
But, because it, Rebel?
Legislative Council, you have several sections, both versions have several sections of rulemaking. Some for AOE, some for the state board, with some March 27 deadlines in the 27, section 27 range.
can you tell us the page number on the section?
It starts on page 38. And there's this. I believe, section 26, the small and sparse schools rulemaking, which is for the state board, is due in March of 27. Section 27, this in the House version, it should be for March 31st, 27.
We changed it.
Senate pushed it out to December 31st, 2028, but I
Yep.
think there's an open question of whether you need to change it again based on the accelerated foundation formula timeline.
For a different.
In order to be.
Yeah, I'm gonna make it earlier.
And then, section 27B, length of school day, rulemaking, I believe is also March 27.
And who does that rulemaking?
It's a state board.
Okay.
And what you said is they were the July.
Yeah,
Wait.
I think as it related to the March of 27 dates, which are, one of them's now different
Yeah,
under our construct. With regard to the March of 27 dates, I think they were looking for July 1. Just-
So the length of school day rulemaking, a huge amount of other analysis rests on that one,
what page is that on again? I'm sorry.
39.
top of it.
There's no real language there because.
Because
There
of
was no
the
difference.
same.
Oh, I see.
That's why we can't find it.
Okay.
So, yeah, I don't know. I just,
Yeah.
I don't.
No, if anything's gonna get expedited, this really needs to get expedited because analysis related to pre-K is very connected to it and a few other things, and we're gonna need to do that in order to basically finish the foundation and meet the foundation formula contingencies.
Now, does the March date matter versus March of 27 versus July 1, 27 for that one? Okay.
Yeah,
I guess that will give us, we will be.
and this one, the intra-district budgeting, actually, we need to make it sooner as well because school districts need these rules in order to budget for their first year under the foundation formula. So at the very earliest, it has to be done by July 1st of 28. So-
Nope.
I think at the very latest, so
And probably sooner.
maybe we say June 1st of 28 because we want those new boards
think
and
that's all.
superintendents.
I think that's all fine. That's enough. I think their only concern was that rulemaking tends to take more than 9 months.
Yeah,
So that
absolutely.
we're worried about being able to do it within a 9 month timeframe. So June of 28.
For the intra-district budgeting.
Yeah. Works. And you, but Emily, you would, both of you, I think we should try to somehow get them, to keep the pressure on to get the.
School day.
The length of
The
school day
school day,
really
yeah,
is,
that's really,
okay,
yeah, we
so we'll
talked
leave
about
that.
this, yeah.
It's,
Okay.
it seems, yeah, it doesn't seem like it
I
should.
think they have to deal with one administrator, so it's better than.
Okay, great.
Okay.
And that related to that, did we want to, I don't know
Those
where,
definitions.
those definitions we had talked about.
Senator Bongard, I wonder, we have not talked about this very much, but if, we could, so, I'm sorry,
But go ahead.
Representative
Yep.
Conlon, I'm really just gonna
Just tell me
offer a
what-
position.
What page are you on?
The definitions.
Page 41.
Thank you. I totally hear your concern about putting definitions in statute rather than rule. I think that's a really legitimate concern. And I don't think we can wait that long for these definitions in order to have a bunch of other stuff happens. So in totally different areas of statute having nothing to do with this at all this year, we did a lot of like basically interim definitions or interim fees or things like that. So I wonder if we could keep these in statute and they would be repealed once rulemaking had made it through the entire process. And like, just to think on that as an idea, as a solution. So we basically have temporary definitions until rules get finalized and approved by all the people, maybe including the legislature.
So it's not exactly a sunset you're talking about.
No, it's like a little bit different from a sunset.
They would be temporary
Yeah.
definitions until a final rule is.
Something like that, yeah. And then there might need to be some process if they're very different from each other.
Yeah, it's a little,
So maybe I could work on some language that's sort of like that.
well, you can make a proposal that.
Yeah.
It's still. We're still putting it in statute, but okay, do a proposal.
And it would just be very temporarily in statute and.
What does very temporarily mean?
Would default to rule.
What is very temporary?
Until rulemaking's done.
But do we have,
It would be-
do we have a time frame for the rulemaking?
We could say 9 months, we could say a year, we could, I don't,
We could say
Yep.
July 1 of 28,
we could say whatever.
or I mean 27, I'm sorry.
Be realistic about it. And so I'm happy to work on some of that language, but I don't want to waste staff time. So if you're not interested in me working on that language, I won't.
Why don't we just take that under advisement?
Okay.
I get the point,
Okay.
and we'll talk.
And we did do, for whatever reason, we did that with fees in a few places this year and said this fee is here. I know it's a very different idea, but this fee is here until someone comes back with another fee because we're not willing to totally, we don't have time to totally sort of devolve the authority.
Yeah.
Delegate the authority.
Can I ask a process question here? It sounds like we've thrown about a bunch of things out, some of which were all like, okay, cool. And some of which were like, we need to see a proposal. I see that Senator Bongartz is making notes. I'm in my thing. Are you guys gonna come back to us with an official proposal with language or with something written down? How are we doing this?
Here's what I'm seeing is, on the maps, we're gonna have to just sort of talk it through.
Yep,
I mean, our proposal would be what we have.
of course,
here.
yeah.
In terms of the CISA change, we made a proposal for that, talk about that. We're all sort of doing different things, but I think collaboratively toward a new end. You're gonna maybe look at language.
Yeah, I'll work with John on this.
On the language. You're gonna work on making the definitions temporary.
Mhm.
And when that's sort of what we're coming back to.
So what it sounds like is we have divided up who's going to work on language. We're going to come back, discuss that language, and then it is our turn to have a formal proposal, but you seem to be interested in working on some.
Well,
We wanna work on the
I just want to make sure we're not losing things, losing track of what has been agreed to and what hasn't, and then we are scrambling and forget something.
So we still have, kind of the remaining big topics continue to be But one thing we could probably, just sort of,
I need to step out for one.
yeah, we have, average class size, versus school size, for the small and smart schools grant program. I think we could probably, let me come back to probably just wrap that one up. But then we have the class size minimums and when that work begins. As one, we have as well the additional tuition charge language. Intent to not do it and not do it, or prohibit it, to work through. These are, the challenge, of course, with many of these is there's not necessarily a middle ground, but just all, well, those are the big ones we have left that we're going to talk about as the day goes on. Hopefully we can kind of get through the map stuff as quickly as possible, although it's going to be just technically challenging.
Tedious.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so
Want
we're
us
back
to
at 2.